Welcome back to Through the Veil podcast with Elle and Camille. I'm Camille, and Elle is actually out of town right now. And today on our podcast, we have Rachel Stewart.
Hi.
So thank you so much for being here. Why don't you give us just a quick introduction to who you are and what you do?
Sure. My name's Rachel Stewart, as you just said, and my husband and I started a page on social media called 411, and it's really in honor of our daughter, Kenadie, who's across the veil. And when we launched it, we didn't even know what it was going to be, and it's just evolved into something that is way beyond what I could have really ever pictured it to end up being, and I know that it's just still in the process. I think I'm still in the early phases of it, but it's really beautiful. And I know that my daughter Kenadie is right beside me, helping us along the way with all of it. And the goal with it right now is to share our stories and other people's stories of connection, is what we call them. And it just really helps people realize that our loved ones are still right here, right beside us, and that we can choose to live a life where we're still connected with them and where the relationship continues even after they pass.
Yes, that's beautiful. And that's actually how I found Rachel, was on YouTube, because we use maybe similar hashtags or have similar content. Her YouTube video popped up and I was like, oh, this looks interesting. And then I watched it. It was stories that you'd collected. People will send in stories of their connections through the veil. I think you shared 5. And I was just like, oh my gosh, we need to get her on the podcast.
Thank you for reaching out. This is wonderful. And of course, the algorithm is great, but I always like to believe that Kenadie has a hand in guiding the right people to the platform when they're supposed to find it. She's kind of shown me that, actually. And so, maybe there was more to it than the algorithm for you finding us.
Well, it's interesting you said that, because I was talking to a couple of other podcasters earlier today. They have a really cool handle. It's Spirit Outspoken. And I found them on Facebook in a reel, and they're like, our stuff wasn't even really doing well on Facebook. And then all of a sudden it was just super visible out of nowhere. And that's when I found them. So I feel like you're right. The other side is pushing this work forward. And I think we only see like a small percentage of what they're doing to help us, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love living like that, like just trusting that they're there helping us, because I'm open to all the help I can get here, Yeah. Life is tricky. Life on this side is tricky. I think they're having a blast. I think it's much easier once you cross the veil.
So starting out, I want to hear about Kenadie. I want to hear about your daughter and how you were inspired after her passing to do something in honor of her. Like, I want to hear about that process and everything.
Kenadie was 10 years old when she passed away in January of 2018. And she had a bout of cancer when she was 2. She was diagnosed with brain cancer when she was 2. She had surgery and radiation therapy. And, for 8 years, she was good to go. We had no idea that it was coming back. And actually, it didn't come back. A different form came back or showed up. And it was Christmas Eve of 2017, so the very end of 2017, and she developed a headache. And I just knew there was just something inside of me. And I remember looking at her as we went outside. It snowed, and we didn't know it was going to snow. And she said, we were outside, she's catching snowflakes on her tongue. And I remember she looked at me and she said, something along the lines of, this feels like a miracle, because she had always asked for snow on Christmas and had never gotten it. And she was just so happy. And I looked down at her and I was faking this big smile for her, but I knew it would be her last Christmas. And all she had at that moment was a headache. And sure enough, a few days later, they told us that she had brain cancer again, but it was a different kind. And this kind was thing we could do about it. So we lost her a month later, and that was obviously beyond devastating. But we were at a place in our lives, my husband and I, we didn't even know what we believed. We didn't know if we believed in an afterlife. We wanted to believe, but when it's your kid on the other side, you need some proof. Like, I needed more than just hope. And so that was a really dark place to be in on top of everything else. Is just, you're missing her. You're missing everything that your life was. It just gets ripped out from underneath you, but then you don't even know if you're going to see her ever again. I mean, that's just on top of everything else, was just terrible. And so I believe a gift from her or from my spirit team across the veil was that I had been introduced to a medium before Kenadie passed, like a few years before she passed. It was an aunt of someone that I worked with and a close friend of mine. So I trusted this woman, and she was super nice, and I won a reading with her. It was very random.
Yeah.
And she did this reading for me, and I thought, well, that was fun, but like, it didn't mean much to me at the time. Mm-hmm. The moment that Kenadie passed, my husband was like, please reach out to Dana, was her name. She has since passed, but he said, please reach out to her and see if she can try to connect with Kenadie. And that was the moment when that reading happened, and she brought through proof, which is all I asked for. Before the reading, I said to Kenadie, if you still exist, please send proof. That's all we need right now. And then we'll go from there. And we got so much proof. There was just undeniable proof in that reading. And afterwards, my husband and I were looking at each other, and we said, she still exists. I mean, we had no doubt. She still exists. She's still right here beside us. And it was that moment. Looking back now, I realized that it was that moment. I don't think when I was in it, I realized it, but it was that moment that something inside of me sparked, and I was like, I'm going to find her.
Yeah.
And, I did. There was nothing stopping me. If she still existed and she proved that she was right beside us, there had to be a way for me to feel that connection and feel more connected with her and communicate with her and live with her in my life. And so I asked her for help, and I feel like she guided me right to her.
Well, and you were open enough to ask her for help. But of course, as a grieving mom, your love is an unbreakable bond. So you will go to, heaven or hell and back, whatever it takes to connect to your child. That's so beautiful. And I relate to that. So just for newer viewers that don't know my story, my son Wesley passed away at age 3 in 2018 in May. On Memorial Day, he passed away from choking on a bolt that fell loose from his toddler bed. So very unexpected, very quick. Yeah. And so different from your story, I come from a conservative Christian background where it's a very typical platitude for people to say when someone passes, like, well, at least, you'll see them again. Right. Mm-hmm. And instead of finding that to be like sufficient, I was like, no, that's not enough for me. Like, I'm going to figure out a way to stay connected to my son. I'm going to keep a relationship going. And I knew it was possible because I'd had a couple other people close to me pass away and had some experiences through the veil with them. But it was like I'm going to figure this out because this is my kid. And, some people kind of like you before when you got the reading the first time, and it was sort of like, that was nice, I guess. Like, I mean, it wasn't super relevant. It didn't hit because it's like the situation is, if you know, when you've lost your child, you will maybe you'll readings wasn't something you thought about. You weren't really part of like that spiritual community or whatever. And then me coming from a conservative Christian background, that was kind of off limits. Like, oh, we don't do that.
Sure.
But when you've lost your child, like, you will listen to your heart more than you'll listen to this outside kind of authority or cultural taboo, talking to you saying, no, don't do that. You will figure it out. And I've given lots of readings to parents who previously have been like, oh, I would never be interested in this, but it's my kid. And so I will, do what it takes to feel connected to them. Right.
Absolutely. Which is, that when you lose your child, that everybody knows how desperate you are for that connection. And so for me, I needed to go to someone, like the fact that I had been introduced to Dana and she was my friend's aunt, it just really helped to comfort me and make me feel comfortable with her, because I knew that that woman would not take advantage of me. I knew that she was going to bring through messages that were only surrounded in love. Whether or not she could connect with Kenadie, I didn't know at the time. I was hoping that she could, but I knew she wouldn't hurt me, and I knew she wouldn't take advantage of me. And I needed that because I was concerned about that, I think, at the time. And, and it's sad, but it's true. I've had people try to scam me. They know that I lost a child somehow because, scammers are good at figuring things out. This was before we even launched 411. And fake psychic reached out to me and said that my daughter was there and I needed to pay a bunch of money. And, and I just thought it's just really sad that exists in the world because the real people that are really doing this work, it's just love and light. And the most beautiful, magical connections exist because of people that open their heart to it. So it's sad that the other side, that exists where they try to take advantage of people and maybe make new grieving parents or people that are grieving shield their heart a little bit, which is tough. But but I was thankfully able to see past that and have just the most beautiful experiences ever that were life-changing.
So now that it's been 8 years and you've had some practice connecting with Kenadie through the veil, what are some of the ways that you feel her the most? Or does she come through feelings? Is it more cognitive thoughts? Is it in dreams? Or do you hear things? Is there visuals? Like, how do you connect with Kenadie?
In the early days, she came to me in dreams. And then the dreams stopped. And that was when I was on my journey to learn how to connect with her on a different level. And again, now I can look back and go, oh, the dreams had to stop. Because if the dreams had continued, they would have been enough for me. And I wouldn't have dove deeper probably because I would have just craved the next dream. But when the dream stopped, it was like, well, now what? Now how do I find her? And so I haven't had a dream with her in years at this point, which is interesting. But now I live connected to her. I'm so connected to her that I can just be driving down the road. And if I'm by myself, she's in my passenger seat. I'm talking to her. I have my hand out on the console. I can feel her hand, the energy of her swirl around in my hand while I'm talking to her. And then I give her space. So if to her, this is something that I describe on our channel all the time. So if I'm talking to her, the step that I used to miss is that I wouldn't give her the opportunity to talk back. So now it's like getting quiet, and you can do that. Think about it. When you're driving down the road, you can have a conversation with a passenger. So it's totally safe. I'm not in meditative state or anything.
You're not closing your eyes while you're driving.
Yes, because you can do all of those things. Energy healing is probably what opened me up the most. I was already meditating, and then an energy session wide open. But now I don't need to be in a meditative state to feel that connection with her. And so I'm driving down the road. I trust that she's there. I'm talking to her, and then I just get quiet and listen to the thought that drops into my mind. And at first, that practice really felt like I was making it up. In fact, I think I was at first. I
just watched your video on this. You were talking about at first you just kind of play along, like you practice.
Yes, it's practice. So I would say something to her, and then I would get quiet, and I would hear nothing. And so then I would respond like, well, today, Mom, I did that, and I would say something that I could picture her saying, and I would try to do it enthusiastically, like, because she was just so enthusiastic. And so I would try to really hone in on her energy as well. And then all of a sudden, I see, so I'm making this up 100% in my head. I'm like, this is just my imagination. She's not really there. Why do I keep doing this practice? Because it just felt like such a waste of time, but I felt nudged to do it. And that's what I always tell people, like, follow those nudges because they're there for a reason. And I kept doing that practice. And all of a sudden I saw it was the thought that came into my mind was her hand with a frog in it. And I just mentioned it to my husband when he came home, and he was like, that's weird because I came across 3 frogs in really random places today at work. And I was like, that's interesting. So, it was like, could that be proof? Because I kept asking her for proof. I want proof. And then the next time that I did that practice, her little hand was there with a chocolate chip cookie in it.
I heard that.
And that's when I asked my husband, so I mentioned it again to him, and he was like, no way, because he had bought chocolate chip cookies when he was at the store, and he never does that. That's not like a normal thing that he does where he buys a cookie and eats it on his drive home. So it was a very random thing for him to do. And he was talking to her in his truck while he's eating the cookie, like one of her favorite treats. And he's talking to her, and she's connecting with me and showing me the cookie that her dad was having. So, I mean, in that moment, I felt like she proved to both of us that I was connecting with her. But it wasn't until I took mediumship classes that she nudged me to in a super magical way.
Yeah.
And I took the classes and started connecting with other people's loved ones. And they gave me the proof that I couldn't deny because I didn't know those people.
Right. It kind of blows your mind. You're like, oh my gosh. Because you sometimes think like these spiritual gifts, they're the select few have them. And if you don't have them, you don't have them. So
that's what I thought.
Same. I mean, I never really like thought about these gifts, honestly, before my son passed away. If anyone shared a story, I'd be like, wow, that's super unique and special, but I didn't think a lot about it.
Sure.
Yeah. Same with me. So I was introduced to a medium from my same faith background, which is rare because in our church, it's not really like mediumship isn't like normalized at all. Right. So it's taboo. So then I took a class with her. She's my co-host, actually, Elle. This was like 3 years ago. And I was like, I took the class just to connect more with my son. And then a couple of years after that, I felt like it's time to do this professionally. And I wasn't planning to, but I just felt very nudged to go that direction a few times. So here I am. But it's just so fascinating that like people think like, well, these gifts are just for like really unique people.
Like you're born with them or you're not.
Right.
That's what
if
people
you have
think.
the desire, then these gifts are for you. It's your intention. And if you have the intention to do it for really good reasons, like connecting with your child or helping other people who are grieving heal, like, then you can develop these gifts. It's a skill and a gift. And it comes down to desire, I think.
Yeah. I think what I have found on my own journey is that, and it's really cool and it happens all the time. And it is one of my favorite feelings that I get to feel is when you get this kind of like a big download, something comes to you, some new way to look at something or some new connection practice, something. And it feels like, whoa, like totally shocked, totally, like I said, it feels brand new. And then half a second later, it feels like you've known it for all eternity.
Yes.
And I'm like, I'm just remembering. I feel like they just unlock one more door. So the more that I practice, the more it unlocks, my memory unlocks. And it's just remembering what I think we all come here already knowing. And then we just, what I believe is that our body is the veil. So, I don't think that heaven is a million miles away. I think that our loved ones are right here.
Yeah.
And we're just looking through our human eyes and listening with our human ears. And so we have these human filters that we leave behind the second that our soul leaves our body. And the more that you practice connecting, the more you can just set your intention outside of that veil, outside of your body. You're still here. You're still grounded. You're still safe. It's still a really beautiful way to live with 1 foot here and 1 foot across the veil. So you're grounded. You're enjoying your family here. You're enjoying your human experience, but you're opening yourself up to the connection across the veil, to the magic that exists across the veil. That's the real kind of magic, and to your loved ones that are over there and your spirit team that just want to help you enjoy life to the fullest while you're here. Like, why not? Why not accept that if it feels right in your heart? I'm like, go for it to everybody, because I really do think that the connection is going to look different for everybody. The way that we do it might look different, but I believe it's available to everyone that wants to feel more connected. It's just you have to be okay that it looks different than it looks for you or for me.
Yes. And okay, this is music to my ears. What you're saying is like, it resonates so much. I love what you said about our body being the veil. And I've actually read in near-death experiences, people will cross over and they have learned that when you actually pass away, you start to remember the things that you knew before you were on earth in a body. And that recollection grows and grows and grows the longer you've been back on the other side. It would probably be a little bit like shock and awe to be like, all of a sudden I'm back home in heaven and I know everything. So I feel like maybe sometimes there's a gradual like remembering, but that is such a really beautiful way to summarize it. Our body is the veil. And I do believe that as well. Our loved ones aren't like in some lofty sky millions of miles away. Like, it's like a dimension or a realm that's just right here. And we're so reachable for them. It's so natural for them to be the one who maybe puts a thought into our minds or whispers something into our ear or puts a feeling into our heart to remind us like it's going to be okay, you know?
Sure. Yeah. And that connection that we can have with them, I always like to remind people of this because people will ask me this or comment this all the time. They'll say something along the lines of, you know, do you ever feel guilty? Like, do you feel like you're holding Kenadie back or, you know, keeping her tethered to the earth? And it's like, I love when people ask me that question because I'm like, oh, let me tell you my belief on this is that we are not capable. Imagine how powerful our soul is when it leaves behind all of the human limitations. So the thought that I could tether Kenadie down is like kind of ridiculous when you actually step back and think about it, because she's beyond that. She's so limitless, and she's right here because she's everywhere. So of course, so why wouldn't she want to be with her family, living through us and getting to experience life through us? And she's doing that while she's learning and growing and experiencing whatever they're supposed to be doing on the other side. She gets to do it all at the same time. She gets to be with all of us all over the world. I mean, like I said, she's limitless. So that's why I love when somebody asks some question like that, because it's just a good reminder that our human brains put human limitations on our loved ones across the veil. So I like to just remind everybody, like, oh, that's a limitation. They don't need those. They don't have those anymore. They are so beyond anything that we can tie them down with here. So, you know, living connected to them is it's not a punishment for them, and it's not holding us back. It's not, you know, even a woman who had lost her spouse, her husband. Someone had commented, you know, don't you feel like she won't be able to move on now if she's living more connected to her husband? And I'm like, oh no, her husband is her biggest fan. Her husband is her biggest cheerleader. Those loved ones across the veil want the very best for our life. And that's all that they want. There's no jealousy. There's none of that. They just want us to experience life to the fullest. And they're there to help us with that. And so having the biggest cheerleader right beside her, if she wants to remarry, he'll be the one he'll probably help her find the right guy.
Happens all the time.
Yeah. So, you know, I don't think that living this connected way holds us back at all. I think it has helped me heal in a way that I never thought was imaginable. Like I couldn't imagine feeling the way that I do now. And it doesn't mean that I don't grieve still. And it doesn't mean that I don't have dark, hard, heavy days, because I do. And I like to talk about that too. But the joy and the peace and the happiness is all just so much more than I thought was possible. And it's all because she's showing me the way. She's brought her light into my darkness. And I don't know where I would have been without it. So this is just, I wish that I had known my whole life that you could grieve like this. And that's what we're doing with 411, is just for anybody that wants to open up to this way of grieving and this way of living. That's what we're here for.
I love that. Okay, a couple things you said that I have to touch on. It's not holding her back, but also she has free will. She wouldn't allow herself to be held back if she didn't want to be. And she's not being held back. Like you said, she's way more limitless than our human minds can understand. We tend to try to put things into the box that we understand. We know that doesn't exist, like on the other side, God is so much greater than all of this. So yeah, it's hard for us to understand, but just because we don't understand it doesn't mean that it isn't real, right?
Sure.
And
And
then,
I have that all the time. I just want to point out, like, I'm sure you feel this way too. I have been diving into the spiritual side of life pretty hard now for 8 years.
yeah,
And just when I think I've got something figured out, like something else happens and I go, oh, I don't understand it at all. I don't get how she just did that. I mean, I didn't even know that that was something that she was capable of doing, like some next level magical experience that happens. And I'm like, it's okay that I don't know. I just,
yeah,
I just want to just bathe in that energy of tomorrow something, in 2 minutes, something even more amazing could happen. And I'm just here for all of it.
yes, just eyes wide open, receptive,
Yep.
open. So you said something about like people could maybe say, oh, it's not healthy to hold on to our loved ones, but it's not that we are holding on to them to live in the past. We are integrating them into the present and moving forward with them into the future.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. When Kenadie passed away, I thought my relationship with her ended in that moment. And this was even after I'd been learning how to live more connected. I still, in my mind, my relationship with her ended, and it didn't start again until I crossed over. And all of a sudden, this one day when I was doing this practice with her and I was feeling all connected, and I kind of had that thought pop in my head. And she was like, well, what is this? Like, isn't this a relationship? I'm like, oh, it's just changed. But the relationship did not end. And I was so stuck on that even after I did a reading for my husband where Kenadie came through with so much proof, and we both looked at each other and went, I'm really doing this? I mean, it was just like, how is this really happening? It was just, it was blowing us away. It was just so incredible what she was able to do. And yet I was still thinking that our relationship had ended. So it was really something that it took me a while to move beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
But I am grateful every second of every day that I still have a relationship with her now, even on the really tough days when I'm bawling my eyes out and I'm so mad that she passed away. I know that she's sitting right beside me while I'm going through my crap, my dark stuff, when I just have to sit in it. Because there's days where I just have to sit in it, and I'm not feeling super connected on those days, but I know that she's there. And she's just patiently waiting for me when I'm ready to reconnect and tune into her more. And I love that.
Yeah, I really love what you said about still having those dark days, because that is the reality. And just because someone has had amazing, transcendent, magical, spiritual experiences with their loved one who's passed away, does not mean that they're not going to have very raw, human, dark experiences as well, where that connection doesn't feel as strong, or they just having a very human experience that kind of cloaks over them so they can't feel as connected, where there's like the anger, the sometimes the denial, like I can't believe this is actually my life,
Absolutely. And the big milestones still can knock you off your feet. She should have graduated high school last year. That was a tough. We still live in the same teeny little town where all of our classmates graduated, and obviously I'm very grateful that they did.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make it easier that she didn't. And so, that was a tough few weeks. It was a tough year. It was leading up. You keep pushing it back on the days that you don't want to sit in it, and then eventually it just gets to the point where it's like, today's the day. Or this week is the week, because that's something that Shane and my husband and I have been, I guess, on the same page with the whole time when it comes to grieving, is that we know that we have to grieve. We have to feel it to get through it. So we've never tried to numb our grief, and we've never tried to run away from it, which I'm not, whatever people do to get through their day, I'm not judging anybody. It's just people had recommended that we tried different things to ease the pain in the early days. And we both looked at each other and said, that's just not for us. We knew that we had to kind of head into the storm
Yeah.
and that was going to be the only way to get through it. And we didn't know if we were going to get through it, but we knew that maybe we could if we did that. But we knew that there was no running away from it. There was no hiding or pretending or, softening it at the time. In those early days, it was what it was, and we sat in it. And so when those days come back, the difference now is that in the early days, I didn't know if I was ever going to get out of it. Now I have all these tools in my back pocket that I've learned along the way. And so I'm not afraid of the dark anymore, because I know when the time is right, when I'm done sitting in it, I can get back out of it. And like I said, she's right there waiting for me. So it makes it a lot easier now, or a lot less scary now to be in the dark.
With the grief, it reminds me of that book, Going on a Bear Hunt. We're going to catch a big one. It's a beautiful day. And then there's an obstacle, a big, river. We can't go over it. We can't go under it. We got to go through it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see, when you see other people on their grief journeys, and and everybody grieves differently, but there's times where people have opened up to me and they've said, I haven't faced it yet. And they still, when they open up and they share more with me, they're kind of back in phase one. They just never move beyond that initial heartache and pain, and they haven't allowed themselves they haven't gone into the storm. And so they have, or I don't know if they would say that, but it kind of seems like they haven't allowed themselves to feel it all. And so they're kind of running alongside it instead of going through it. And so maybe part of 411 is encouraging people that they are strong enough to go through it. They are strong enough to face it. And there will be tools along the way to help you. And the team, there is a spirit team right there that can help you, because I needed their help big time.
Let's go back to your experience wanting to connect with your daughter in the car. How long did you practice that, and how often until you actually felt like she's communicating, until you saw the frog?
Oh gosh. I don't know the exact timing of how long I was doing that practice, but there was leading up to it. So it started with meditating. Mm-hmm. That was the first step for me.
Guided meditation or just sitting in quiet? How did you meditate?
I was doing guided meditation because sitting in quiet was too much for me.
Same.
I tried. I just sat there and I was just bawling and bawling. And I thought, nope, this isn't for me. And so I went onto YouTube and I just put in guided meditation, and there was one for healing that popped up. And because I couldn't start with meeting your loved one across the veil, because there are guided meditations for that. Yeah. That was too much for me. So I just focused on healing, and I did the first one, and I didn't cry during the 15-minute guided meditation or whatever it was. I didn't feel anything. I didn't, there was no magic happening, but something inside me told me to keep going with that. So I did. So I was doing guided meditations almost daily for starting the same year that she passed. And then really the connection heightened so she passed in 2018. It was the summer of, which I tell people this all the time because I don't want to discourage people from meditating, because everybody has their own journey. And some people feel connected the moment that they start meditating. I was meditating pretty regularly, and I didn't feel a connection, like a real connection, until the summer of 2020.
Well, I think people need to hear that, though, because they need to know they're not weird or different if they're not having these magical spiritual experiences on day one.
Yeah. And it wasn't my daughter that I found, which, again, I keep saying, looking back, because now I realize if I had found her first, tap, tap, I would have been like, that is it. She's my person. I'm good now. And I would have lived connected to her, and everybody else could have been gone. But I met guides. I met angels. I met Jesus, which was the biggest shock of my life. At that point, I was I talking? I mean, I think I'd already done the mediumship training. So, I mean, I was connecting with other people's deceased loved ones. That didn't shock me. The angels didn't shock me. My guide didn't shock me. Jesus was very hard for me to accept for myself. And it was my husband. I came out and I said, "You're never going to believe what just happened in that meditation." And I told him, and I said, "That's crazy, right?" I mean, and he looked at me and he was like, "Why wouldn't Jesus show up in your meditation?" Like, he thought it was silly that I was so shocked by the whole thing. He was like, "You're okay with it. You've met angels. Like, yeah. You chatted it up. Like, why is Jesus?" I'm like, I don't know. It took me a long time to kind of sit with that. And I put that man, because he shows up regularly, just standing, he's right there with Kenadie. I feel like he's part of my team, and he's meant to be a part of my life, my whole life. And I'm not a part of an organized religion, and he shows up in everything that he shows up in card readings that I do. He shows up in energy healings that I do. He is just there. And I put that man through the ringer because I didn't believe that it was him. I thought, I must be making this up. This is just crazy. Why would he show up for me? I didn't grow up with him in my life.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. What's your background with faith or religion or spirituality?
None. I went to church maybe a handful of times with my grandma growing up, and was very excited for the cookies at the end. I wasn't listening to what they were talking about. I didn't understand any of it. I knew nothing about Jesus, which was really awesome, because when he came through with proof, he gave me a verse from the Bible. I've never heard of that before in my life, so there was no way that I could have made that up.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I was drying my daughter's hair, and because I had said to him this morning, he showed up during an energy healing, and then the next day during a meditation, and I said, "If it's really you, I need some proof."
Yeah.
And he showed me something, and during the meditation, and I was able to Google it, and I was like, "Okay, yeah, maybe." And I'm drying my daughter's hair, my other daughter, Mila, who's my surviving child. She's 14 now, but so I'm drying her hair, and I say to him, and I'm not in a meditated state or anything. I just said, because I'm thinking nonstop about him, and I said, "Boy, can't you just give me something from the Bible?" Because I was like, I'm pretty sure you would know all of the things. And I see in my mind's eye the word Corinthians. And I was like, "Oh, that sounds like a Bible-y word." I was like,
You're like, I don't know.
And then I saw the number 13, and I saw the number 1. And so I went and, wrote it down real quick. And then I went and looked it up, and it is a verse, I think, from the Bible. I think that's the right wording.
You got it.
And it is, it's the one that's all about love. And it's the one that I think they read sometimes at weddings, like, love is patient, love is
kind.
And yes. And I was like, wow, of course Jesus would guide me to the love.
The most important concept.
I love that so much. But then I Googled, like, what is the underlining meaning of this? And the underlining, I've got goosebumps all over my body. The underlining meaning of it, it's going to bring tears to my eyes, is that, you want to use your spiritual gifts in the most loving way for others, just like Jesus did. And it was, that came to me the day after I did an energy healing for people on 411 that I just offered to the group. I was like, I don't know. At the time we had 200 followers from our town.
Yeah.
And I was like, anybody want to do an energy healing? Like, I'm coming out of the spiritual closet.
Yes, here I am.
Here I am. And then that message came through for me the next morning. So it was just a really powerful moment for us. But you asked me when I was a kid if I had any sort of connection with him. And it was actually Kenadie that introduced me to him before she passed. She had a dream with Jesus in it.
Oh my God.
So I can tell you that one next. But when I was a kid, my mom had this picture thing in her room, and it had a poem on it. And it's my favorite poem, and it's Footprints in the Sand.
Uh-huh.
Do you know this poem?
Mm-hmm.
And so just for anybody that doesn't know it, the gist of the poem, I'm definitely not going to try to memorize it and read it out loud or anything, but the gist is that this man is standing next to the Lord, and he's looking at his life. He's looking back at his life, And there's two sets of footprints in the sand because the Lord was walking beside him through his life. And then he says, why during all of my hard times did you leave me? You said you were going to be right beside me, but there's only one set of footprints in the sand. And the Lord says, pretty much you misunderstood. That's when I was carrying you. And so that was my favorite poem growing up. I just loved that poem. And here, I think within the last year, and I've felt connected to Jesus now since about 2020, 2021, somewhere around there. And he and Kenadie were standing next to each other. And I was talking about the dark days, like this is in a meditation. And I'm talking to them about after Kenadie passed and they weren't there yet. So it was before I was connected to Jesus, before I was connected with Kenadie, and I was calling those the dark days before they were there. And the thing that flashed in front of my eyes that I hadn't thought of since I was a little girl was these footprints in the sand. And it was just that moment of course you were there. You were carrying me.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a moment. Yeah. And that was really incredible. But how Kenadie introduced me to him is, so a couple years before she passed, she had a dream. And she came out of her bedroom and she told us, and she only had a handful of dreams that she talked about when she was a kid. And this was one of them. And she said that she was in the garage in this dream and she looked out the window and there was a really bad storm coming and she was afraid. And then all of a sudden there was a man standing beside her in the garage and he had long hair and a long beard and he was surrounded by children. And he told her that she didn't need to be afraid, that he would stand right beside her through the storm. And then he invited her over and he was telling a story to the kids and she sat down among the kids and he shared the story with her. And I said, did the storm go away? Of course, the dream freaked me out a little bit. And I said, because I was always worried that cancer would come back.
Yeah.
And I said, did the storm go away? I really wanted her to say that it did. And she said, no, the storm was still coming, but I wasn't afraid anymore. And then she just got up and went and played with her sister like it was no big deal. And I looked at my husband and I said, was that Jesus? He was like, I don't know. So I'm Googling, is Jesus around, like are kids around Jesus a lot? I'm reading about how Jesus was well known for his kindness towards children. And so I thought, maybe. And so then later that summer, I'm driving along and I'm by myself and I had never asked for a sign. I had never tried to talk to anybody across the veil. Never. And I'm driving along and I'm all by myself. And I said, I need to know that there's more to life. I need some sort of proof that there's more than what is going on right here. Because I was just so worried about my daughter and I was probably worried that she would pass away and I just needed more. And I said, so I need a really big sign, but you're going to have to slap it across my face because the way that I was living my life, that I wasn't going to notice something really subtle. And so as I'm saying this, I'm starting to feel something and I didn't know what, but I was excited. Now I'm like, I was feeling that connection. But at the time I was just like, what is happening? And I was just feeling elated. And then this car pulls out right in front of me and almost causes an accident. And I was doing 60 miles an hour. And so I was furious because, they could have killed me. And so all of this happy emotion that I was just feeling and so connected or whatever I was feeling, that was all gone. And I'm furious at this car in front of me. And we get to a stop sign or a stoplight. And I noticed that this car has one bumper sticker on the back of it. And I'm like, jerk has to say, I'm still mad. So I crept my car up to the back of their car just to see what the bumper sticker said. And it said, Jesus is real.
Oh.
And I was like, I did ask for them to slap me across the face with a sign.
Oh my gosh.
I guess that
was maybe
it.
Next time with less drama though, please.
Yeah, totally. So that was kind of the start of something. Like I said, that was a couple years before Kenadie passed. And then after she passed, I didn't feel a connection with him for a couple more years. And then then he showed up, and then she showed up. And so, but to go back to your original question, the actual practice where I was talking to her, it wasn't just in the car, it was just in general, where I would talk to her and then give that space to her. I was already, pretty deep into the connection practice by that point, but I would say that probably a few months of me doing that on a regular basis before the frog thing happened.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. I think that gives people hope, because if they're, because with my experience with my son, it was like immediate after he passed, I'm feeling him. I know he's there. I can feel his feelings. It's like, if people hear that and then they can be like, well, that's not my experience. Well, that's lucky you, it takes effort. And also I love what you said about it's a practice. And so it's not just like doing something like having an energy session, or we can do things to get to a more spiritual state, but it's once we start practice just being, that's when we can get into that flow. Okay. Before we run out of time, I want to know, I have two more burning questions. Number one,
okay.
Where did you guys come up with the name? Number two, 411. And number two, how can people find you? What do you offer? Like, tell us more about what you're doing and what you're putting out there. So,
I'm so excited. Okay. Yeah, so 411 is, it's kind of, I'm going to make it as quick as I can, but it's a pretty deep layered thing that happened. But the gist is that when Kenadie passed away, the first way for her to get signs to us was with the number 4.
Okay.
And that was her favorite number when she was here. And then all of a sudden the number 4 stopped coming to us, and it turned into an 11. And my husband was the one that noticed first. And I was like, oh, wow, we are getting all these 11s. I wonder why. We had no idea the spiritual significance behind the number 11. But we knew that it was her way of showing us that we were on the right path. So we started doing things for the 11s. And then we found out that 11 means, spiritual awakening and spiritual development. And it's a beautiful angel number. And, it's one of the most spiritual numbers, but we didn't know that at the time. So, so for us, we were just living for those 11s, which is living for that connection and, following her light is what those 11s were, her light. And so we were doing those things. And then in 2020, I just got this knowing all of a sudden. I said, I think I'm supposed to tell our story. I don't know how we're supposed to do this or how I'm supposed to do this. And I'm telling my husband, who's reserved and quiet and an introvert, and we had been recluses after her passing for 2 years. I mean, we didn't hardly leave our house, but now I'm saying that I want to share our story. And what was crazy to me is that my reserved, shy, quiet husband said, I feel that too. And then maybe 2 days later, he said, it's going to be called 411. He just got that. And I said, nobody's going to understand what that means. And he was like, I don't think it matters. I'm like, okay. So then our sign for her and for what we were going to do has now been the number, even though it's FOR, the number 11, she would send us the number 411 everywhere. So that's every single day since then, we have gotten that. My friend connected with Kenadie during a meditation shortly after Kenadie passed. And she told me in this meditation that she saw Kenadie and I sitting across from each other, and we were doing something together. And we were so happy. And the heaviness of the grief was just gone. We were so happy. And then she saw Kenadie turn into this ball of energy and go into my heart space. And she could just feel, she said it was the most beautiful thing she'd ever seen or felt in her life. And she told me about this. And I remember thinking, gosh, I wish I could be that connected to my daughter, but it was a cool experience, So fast forward a few more years later, and I say to her, I think this thing that's coming to us is the thing that you pictured in that meditation. And she goes, do you have the message that I sent you? And I said, yeah. She goes, find it. So I scroll back through a couple of years worth of messages. She had that meditation on 411.
Whoa. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Whoa. That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, so it was always meant to be, we just didn't know it. But yeah. And then what is coming with 411 is the thing. Before we launched, she was pushing me to launch it. We didn't even know what it was. We thought it was going to be a crystal shop at first because I liked crystals.
Yeah.
So we bought a bunch of crystals. But anyways, before we launched, I was in meditation and I said, you got to give me something. I need to know what this is going to be. And I was begging my spirit team and my daughter. And I heard, you will create the thing you wished you could have found. And I said, I'm in. And we're doing it right now. I'm so emotional today. And we're getting ready to launch the 411 community. And inside of that space is everything that I wish I could have found. So, in fact, I was working with the woman today that's helping us, and it's done. It's ready to be put out into the world. So I don't know when you're going to post this, but by the time you post it, I think the community will be live.
And so where can people find you?
Well, on social media, our handle is FOR, the number 11, and then _together. So it's 411 together. And for that community space, they'll be able to find that at 411together.com.
Okay. I have so many more questions. Like, what will your community, just answer a couple before we have to go. Tell me about like some of your favorite offerings in this community.
Oh, so we didn't even get into it, but the energy healing session that I was given, that I was guided to, healed me and changed my life in a 30-minute remote session. And I just blew me wide open. I just could not believe what just happened and the healing that happened. And then I asked my husband, who was going through a really dark time, heavy depression. It was 2 summers after she had passed. I said, are you willing to try this? And he said, I'm willing to try anything. So, my commercial fishing husband is lying on the bed at home, and he received this energy healing, and he met her on top of a mountain, and she gave him just the most beautiful message. And we got done with the session and he's bawling. I mean, tears were just streaming down his face, and he looked at me, he goes, that just changed my life. And he said, please find out how to do that. So I took training on it. And so that's going to be inside the community every single month. And there's going to be practices. We're going to be, asking other practitioners, mediums, to come on and do gallery readings for the group. And
pick me.
Yeah, please. There's going to be sound baths. There's going to be energy healings. There's going to be card readings. There's going to be inside. There's already, I wrote a book on how I learned to live connected and included everything that I did in those 8 years. And there's a video course that goes with it. That's included. There's guided meditations. It just goes on and on. It's everything that we have done. And then as we continue living connected, we're just going to offer it all up there for people. So it's to allow people to try things and meet new people like you and experience these things. And then they can decide to work with you one-on-one outside of the space. This is just to introduce people. So we're doing it all. And the team has shown me that it was going to be $4.11 a month. And that's what we're doing.
I would love to have you back on, especially with your community launched, because I know our viewers are interested in this kind of content, these opportunities. That's what piques their interest. That's where their hearts are, is in learning how to connect and have more enhancing spiritual experiences. And that's amazing. Yeah.
And we wanted it to be super accessible so that everybody can try without that weird pressure, because when you're grieving and you're in that dark space, sometimes you want to try everything, but you're not feeling up to it. And you're but then there's the guilt of, the price of things and whatever. And so it's not to devalue this work, because this work is beautiful. And when you're working one-on-one with somebody, that's a different story. Yes. But the team has shown me a different way to do it. And I'm just so excited.
I'm so excited. Yeah, I'm so excited for this. Okay. Well, you guys, this has been such a treat. Thank you so much, Rachel, for being on. We need to have you back. As you guys know, share this podcast with your friends. Follow Rachel and what she's doing. And if you guys need to get in touch with us, our website is throughtheveiledpodcast.com. If you want to schedule a session with Elle or I, or take a class, I'm hosting classes on teaching people how to develop their spiritual gifts, learning mediumship. So if you guys want to learn more, you can go to throughtheveilpodcast.com and go to my website, which is linked on there, to see the classes that I'm doing. Elle has some classes starting up in the fall, so there's a lot going on. All right, Rachel.
That's cool.
Thank you for everything. Thanks for sharing your heart with us. Thanks for sharing Kenadie with us a little bit today. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So
thank you so much for having me on here.
Yeah. Okay. We'll keep in touch.